I'm Bruce Ware. I'm a boy from Gooding, Idaho, and spent most of my life in Idaho. I've been transferred a number of times around the country, but finally settled back in what I consider home in Eagle. I've had a number of recreational vehicles, starting out 30 years ago with a small Class C, then moved up into a fifth wheel, and we've had a number of fifth wheels. What you'll learn as you get a little bit older, the fifth wheels you have to pay a little bit more attention to and be careful. And the big issue is we had a 41-foot fifth wheel. And that precluded you from going into state parks and national parks because those are maximum 35 feet, 36 feet. And my wife wouldn't drive a fifth wheel, but she will drive a motorhome. And we spent a lot of time in Sun Valley. And we drive, obviously, to go Sun Valley, we drive through IWS. My boss decided to buy a Renegade as well. He's from Texas. Ultimately, he asked me to take him down here and entered to pick up his coach, had a chance to meet the people down here. And that's where it sold me, Scott, is at the end of the day, whether you have a fifth wheel, a trailer, but particularly a motorhome, you're going to have service, some kind of service, even if it's only winterizing your coach. But there will be some service need. And when you take a look at IWS's service bay, but then you get to know the people, at the end of the day, you have an expensive investment. And there are the concerns, at least from me, is that when I leave the coach with somebody, how is it going to be treated? And that ultimately sold me, and that's how I found out about IWS, and then that's how I was sold on IWS. It's streamlined, and it's a lot more personal. Yes, these are high-end coaches, although they have a wide range of a coach that you can buy. They're professional. And for me, in the process, as I compare it, buying the products that I bought in the past, this process is a lot more professional. Even from the standpoint, when you walk into IWS, they have a 50-inch, at least what I see is a 50-inch TV that welcomes you in. Everybody's prepared. So it's on the board. There is obviously conversations that take place before you come in, that you're coming in to either have your coach serviced or you're purchasing a coach. It's an impressive process. And I come from a process-oriented company and process-oriented business in the past. And ultimately you can see that they've got that piece dialed in, and you feel, you do feel special. It's an overused term, but you feel very comfortable in the fact that they care about the business. They care about the investment that you've made, and they make it very personal. It's consistent. I've made it a point to get to know people here. I consider some of the people, they've been extremely helpful. I consider them friends. That can seem to be oversold, but whether it's the sales part of it, I can still remember purchasing the coach, and I was up the first weekend. I get a call during the course of the weekend from Sam, who I brought, the salesperson I bought the coach from. How is everything going? Is everything good? Is there anything that we need to follow up on? When I've had to have some service items take place, it's professional. You get the confidence that they know what they're doing, and it's very clear by the consistency of the work. And again, I'm very fastidious. I polish my coach, I keep it in great shape, and when you get it back, it's either of equal or better. So they've cleaned it, they've washed it, they've taken care of it. When you talk about the service end or scheduling the service, the consistency of what Jamie and her team do in terms of accurately putting down what they need, having the parts or whatever you've decided to upgrade your coach with, they have the parts there and they install the professional installation. So each department is very coordinated, at least within this organization. From my key, it starts, which we've touched on, which is the people. Because if the people are not passionate about what they're doing, if they don't have the service-oriented attitude, you're going to have a problem, at least from my perspective. The next piece is, what are the deliverables? I look at it in that simple way as, what is that deliverable? And what is the experience going to be? The experience from when you show up to the experience in the check-in process, to the experience of what are you going to see when you get your coach back, whatever the service is. And I bought a used coach, and there were some things that I wanted to have upgraded in the coach. Things that obviously when you buy a coach in 2022 and it's a 4-year-old coach, there are things that I wanted to have upgraded. And the level of professionalism, because I look for whether they're scratches or whether they've been installed, that was key to me. So if we start with the people, we take a look at the service, and what's the post-transaction? In other words, what just happened in that whole process to deliver? Did they deliver on those deliverables? And the answer is absolutely yes. I have a 2018 Renegade Classic. It's a DD13. Bought initially, we spent a lot of time boondocking and wanted to have a coach that could be all weather, and it has delivered exceptionally well on how we use the coach, and again, from a weather standpoint and boondocking. Well, that's the wonderful thing about when you tell IWS how you're going to use the coach, they're going to make sure that that coach is set up for that. In my case, we spend about 90% of our time boondocking. What critical components come along with that? Well, battery life. And so at the end of the day, I wanted to upgrade to AGM batteries. I wanted to make sure we had the capacity of the solar panels that would be able to replenish that. And so they went over that, and as we set that coach up for that. We spent a lot of time in Idaho. We spent time in Stanley. We spend time virtually. We spend a lot of time in City of Rocks, down outside of Arco. But what we just finished coming back from a 90-day trip, going back to the East Coast, we put 10,000 miles on this coach. It was seamless. Everything worked well. But what was interesting is during the travel, we had upgraded the coach before we left. There was the follow-up from Sam and the follow-up from Jamie on how are things going, is everything going as you anticipated. You just don't get that level of service and what we'll call a mass RV distributor, and you get that personalized treatment here at IWS. I like to draw an analogy, and the analogy can be I fly a lot. And it's one thing to fly on an airplane safely. What's the check-in process? What's the boarding process? If you check bags, do you get your bags back on time? How about the gate agent that has to bring up and do the unloading process during that piece? If anyone fails during that experience, it can be the greatest flight, the safest flight, your bag doesn't show up, and you're on a 3 or 4 day vacation, your clothes are never there. What's the experience? The experience is a failed experience. So you can have the greatest coach, RV, whoever you decide to buy from. You can have that greatest vehicle that you've just purchased and be excited about it. But yet if there is something that needs to be done on it, what happens if that's not completed well? What happens if some part of the process that you go through in the RV experience isn't good? The whole feeling that you've just invested, whatever you've chosen, however much money you've decided to spend, all of a sudden at that point in time, you question your investment. At IWS, you know somebody is going to be there. They're going to follow through with what they say they're going to do, and you're going to have a seamless transaction. You're going to have a seamless experience, and it's going to be positive. And that's the way I viewed it. And again, this is from somebody that's owned 5 coaches at this point in time over the course of my life. And by far, this has been the best experience that I've had.